Welcome back to the channel The Coin Empire. Today we are diving into one of the most shocking and unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that sounds almost impossible but continues to excite collectors everywhere. And that is the legendary 1982 quarter dollar that some experts believe could be worth as much as $90 million because of rare errors and extraordinary minting mistakes that transformed an ordinary 25-cent coin into a potential fortune. And before you think this is just another rumor, stay with me because the details behind this coin will completely change the way you look at every quarter in your pocket. The 1982 Washington quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a transitional period in United States coin production when quality control procedures were undergoing changes and mint marks were being applied directly to the dies instead of being punched by hand as in earlier years, and this period of change opened the door to a wide range of dramatic and rare minting errors that could, under extremely rare circumstances, create a coin of unimaginable value. The standard 1982 quarter features the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse, and the eagle reverse design that had been used since 1932. But what makes this particular coin legendary is not its design but the possibility of a combination of rare mint errors occurring on a single specimen, and collectors know that the value of an error coin multiplies exponentially when multiple dramatic mistakes appear together, especially if those errors are unique or nearly unique. One of the most important factors that could push a 1982 quarter into the tens of millions range would be a dramatic wrong planchet error. Imagine a quarter that was mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even another country. For example, if a 1982 quarter were struck on a 90% silver planchet leftover from earlier years, or on a foreign blank with a completely different metal composition, the result would be a coin with unusual weight, color, and metallic properties that immediately signals something extraordinary. And if such a coin also displayed a double die obverse where the lettering in Liberty or I in God We Trust appears visibly doubled due to misalignment in the die creation process, the rarity would increase even further. Now consider the possibility of a dramatic off-center strike combined with a broad strike error where the collar failed to hold the planchet in place, causing the coin to expand beyond its normal diameter while still retaining clear design details. A broad struck off-center 1982 quarter with sharp doubling and struck on the wrong metal would already be an elite rarity. But the legend of the $90 million valuation goes even deeper into what could make such a coin priceless. Collectors also look for die breaks and cuds, which occur when pieces of the die crack or break away and leave raised blobs of metal on the coin's surface. And in rare cases, massive retained cuds create dramatic shapes that make the coin visually unique and impossible to duplicate. And if a 1982 quarter featured a massive die break across Washington's portrait along with a rotated die error where the reverse design is not properly aligned with the obverse, you would be looking at a once-in-a-generation mistake. Another factor that could send the price soaring into the stratosphere would be a mule error. A mule occurs when two dies that were never meant to be paired together are accidentally used to strike a coin. For example, if a 1982 quarter obverse were somehow paired with a reverse design from another denomination such as a $50 or even an experimental pattern reverse, that coin would immediately become one of the most famous mint errors in American history. And mule coins are among the rarest and most sought-after errors because they represent a catastrophic breakdown in minting procedure. Now imagine that such a mule also displayed a proof-like surface despite being a business strike, meaning it somehow received polished die treatment, or was struck with experimental dies intended for proof coinage. The reflective fields and frosted devices would make the coin visually stunning and add another layer of desirability. And when rarity, eye appeal, and mystery combine in one coin, collectors with deep pockets begin to compete fiercely, pushing values into levels that seem impossible for a quarter. The year 1982 is also significant because it was a time when the mint did not produce official mint sets, which means fewer high-quality examples were preserved by collectors at the time of issue. This lack of mint sets makes high-grade 1982 quarters surprisingly scarce and pristine condition. And if an era coin from that year survived in near-perfect mint state with sharp details, blazing luster, and minimal contact marks, the grading services could assign it an elite grade such as MS 68 or higher, and condition rarity is one of the most powerful drivers of price in the coin market, especially when paired with dramatic mint errors. Beyond striking errors, there is also the possibility of transitional composition anomalies, although quarters had long since transitioned away from silver by 1982. The mint's complex supply chains always leave open the tiny possibility that an experimental or leftover blank could be fed into the presses. And if metallurgical testing confirmed a unique alloy composition never officially released, that alone could justify an astronomical valuation. Collectors are fascinated by coins that represent transitional moments in minting history, and 1982 marked operational changes that provide fertile ground for speculation about rare mistakes. There is also the allure of mystery surrounding coins that appear without documentation. Sometimes a single discovery emerges decades after minting, found in pocket change or inherited in a jar of old coins, and when experts cannot find another example in any archive, the coin becomes a unique specimen, and uniqueness is the ultimate ingredient in record-breaking value, because when only one exists, wealthy collectors have no alternative but to compete for that single opportunity. And competition at high-end auctions can escalate rapidly when bidders realize they may never see another chance to acquire such a coin. Media attention also plays a major role in skyrocketing valuations. When a coin is labeled as the only known example of a multi-era 1982 P quarter with wrong planchet, double die, rotated reverse, massive cud, and proof-like surfaces all combined, headlines alone can draw global interest from investors and collectors who view rare coins as tangible assets, and unlike stocks or digital currencies, rare coins are physical objects with historical significance, making them attractive to those seeking both prestige and diversification. In recent decades, the rare coin market has seen extraordinary sales where singular pieces reach 8 figures, and if a legendary 1982 P quarter checked every box of rarity, uniqueness, historical intrigue, dramatic era combination, and superb preservation, a theoretical valuation of $90 million becomes part of serious discussion rather than fantasy. Collectors must also consider authentication, because a coin of such value would undergo intense scrutiny including weight analysis, X-ray fluorescence testing to confirm metal composition, dye marker comparison to verify authenticity, and microscopic examination to rule out post-mint damage or alteration. And if the coin passed all these tests and grading authorities certified it as genuine and unique, its legitimacy would ignite a frenzy in the numismatic world. The psychology of rarity cannot be underestimated. When collectors perceive that a coin represents the pinnacle of mint-era history for a modern circulation issue, emotional bidding can push prices far beyond traditional valuation models, and modern coins with extraordinary errors are especially fascinating because they challenge the assumption that only ancient or early American coins can achieve legendary status. The 1982 P quarter is a common coin in everyday circulation, billions were struck. Yet the possibility that one escaped the mint with a cascade of rare mistakes transforms it into a treasure hunt story that captures imagination worldwide. People begin checking their change more carefully, rolling through bank boxes, examining edges for silver glints or unusual thickness, weighing coins on digital scales, searching for doubling in the inscriptions, rotating coins to see if the reverse alignment is off, and this excitement fuels the entire collecting hobby, even if the vast majority of 1982 P quarters are worth only face value. The knowledge that one extraordinary specimen could be worth $90 million keeps hope alive, and hope is a powerful force in collecting. It encourages research, learning, and appreciation of minting technology. It builds communities of enthusiasts who share discoveries and educate newcomers about the differences between machine doubling and true doubled dies, between damage and genuine cuds, between post-mint alterations and authentic mint errors. And through this shared passion, the legend of the 1982 P quarter continues to grow, whether or not a verified $90 million example ever appears at auction. The story reminds us that mistakes can create miracles in the world of coins. Next, 1971 $quarter coin. Today we are exploring an unbelievable story that sounds like it came straight out of a treasure hunter's dream, The story of a 1971 quarter dollar that some collectors believe could be worth as much as $86 million because of extraordinary mint errors and rare production mistakes that transformed a simple 25-cent coin into a potential life-changing fortune. And I know it sounds impossible that a coin still found in circulation could ever reach that kind of value, but when you understand how minting errors happen, how rare combinations of mistakes can occur, and how collector demand can push a unique coin into legendary status, you will begin to see why the 1971 quarter has become such a fascinating topic in the numismatic world. The 1971 Washington quarter was produced during a time when the United States Mint was striking billions of clad coins for circulation, using a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel, and while most of these coins were produced exactly as intended, the sheer scale of production always leaves room for rare and dramatic errors to slip through quality control, and sometimes those errors are so unusual and so visually striking that they elevate a coin from ordinary pocket change to museum-level rarity. One of the most powerful factors that could make a 1971 quarter worth tens of millions is the possibility of it being struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a 1971 quarter struck not on its standard copper nickel-clad blank, but on a 40% silver planchet intended for a $50 or on a leftover 90% silver blank from pre-1965 production that somehow remained in the system. Such a mistake would instantly create a coin with the wrong weight, wrong metallic composition, and potentially a different color and sound when dropped on a surface. And if metallurgical testing confirmed that the coin was struck on an unintended precious metal planchet, collectors would immediately recognize its historical importance, especially if only one example were ever discovered, and wrong planchet errors become exponentially more valuable when they are unique. Another dramatic possibility is a double-dyed verse, which occurs when the working die receives multiple misaligned impressions during its creation, resulting in visible doubling on inscriptions like Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or even on Washington's profile. And unlike machine doubling, which is common and usually minor, a true double die shows clear separation in the design elements, and if a 1971 quarter displayed bold, unmistakable doubling visible to the naked eye, especially in combination with other errors, it would be considered an elite modern rarity. Now imagine that same coin also exhibiting a major off-center strike where the design is shifted significantly to one side while still retaining a full date. Because collectors place enormous importance on visible dates in off-center coins, a dramatic 40 or 50% off-center strike with a full 1971 date would already command serious attention, but the story of the $86 million valuation goes even further when we consider the possibility of a broad strike error. A broad strike happens when the collar that normally constrains the coin's diameter fails to engage, allowing the metal to spread outward, producing a coin that is wider and thinner than normal. And if a 1971 quarter were both off-center and broad struck while also struck on the wrong metal, the layering of mistakes would make it extraordinarily rare. Collectors often describe such pieces as perfect storms of minting chaos, because each individual error is rare, but the probability of them occurring together on a single coin is astronomically low. Another major factor that could push a 1971 quarter into eight-figure territory is the presence of a mule error. A mule coin is created when two dies that were never meant to be paired together are accidentally installed in the press, for example a Washington quarter obverse paired with a reverse from another denomination or an experimental design that was never officially released. Mule errors are among the rarest of all United States Mint mistakes because die pairings are carefully controlled, and if a 1971 quarter were discovered with an incorrect reverse design that could be authenticated as genuine mint production, it would instantly become one of the most famous error coins ever found, and fame plays a powerful role in valuation. Because the more a coin is discussed, studied, and publicized, the more collectors desire it. Condition also plays a massive role in determining value. 1971 quarters are common in circulated grades, but high-grade uncirculated examples with blazing luster and minimal contact marks are far scarcer than most people realize. And if a unique multi-error specimen survived in near-perfect mint state condition, graded at the very top of the scale by professional grading services, its condition rarity would multiply its desirability. Now add to this the possibility of a rotated die error where the reverse design is misaligned relative to the obverse, meaning when you flip the coin vertically the reverse is not upright but rotated at a noticeable angle. Dramatic rotations of 90 degrees or even 180 degrees are extremely collectible. And when combined with other striking anomalies, they create a coin that defies normal expectations. Die breaks and cuds are another fascinating category of errors that could appear on a legendary 1971 quarter. As dies age and endure the stress of striking thousands of planchets, cracks can form, and sometimes pieces of the die actually break away, leaving raised blobs or irregular shapes on the coin's surface known as cuds. A massive retained cud covering part of the rim and design can make a coin instantly recognizable and one of a kind. And if a 1971 quarter displayed an enormous die break running across Washington's portrait along with doubling and off-center strike, the visual drama alone would captivate collectors worldwide. There is also the intriguing possibility of a double denomination error. Though extremely rare, double denomination coins occur when a previously struck coin is fed back into the press and struck again with dies of a different denomination, for example a dime struck over by quarter dies, leaving remnants of the underlying design visible beneath the quarter image. Such an error would be spectacular and almost certainly unique, and if the underlying coin were from a different year or metal composition, the historical significance would increase even more. Transitional errors can also add to the mystique. Although 1971 did not mark a major composition change for quarters, the mint was constantly adjusting production methods and materials, and experimental alloys or test strikes occasionally occurred behind the scenes. If documentation or metallurgical evidence suggested that a particular 1971 quarter was struck on an experimental alloy never officially released into circulation, collectors would view it as a window into hidden mint history, and that sense of mystery is priceless in the numismatic community. Auction dynamics also contribute to extraordinary valuations. When a coin is marketed as the only known example combining wrong planchet, doubled die, major off-center strike, broad strike, rotated reverse, massive cud, and proof-like surfaces, competitive bidding among wealthy collectors can escalate rapidly, especially if the coin receives widespread media coverage and is displayed at major coin conventions. The psychology of scarcity drives collectors to act boldly when they know another opportunity may never arise, and in recent years the rare coin market has seen record-breaking sales that demonstrate how high values can climb when rarity, condition, and story align perfectly. Beyond the technical aspects, there is the romance of discovery. Imagine someone finding such a coin in a roll from a local bank, noticing its unusual weight or strange appearance, sending it for authentication, and then learning that they hold one of the most important modern mint errors ever produced. Stories like that capture the imagination of people far beyond the hobby itself. They inspire new collectors to examine their change, to learn about mint marks, die varieties, and the difference between damage and genuine mint errors. And this cultural excitement adds intangible value to legendary coins. Authentication would be critical for a coin valued at $86 million. Experts would perform precise weight measurements, diameter checks, edge analysis, and advanced testing such as X-ray fluorescence to confirm metal composition. They would study die markers under magnification to verify that the coin was struck from genuine United States mint dies and not altered after leaving the mint. And only after passing rigorous examination would the coin be certified and encapsulated. Once certified, its uniqueness would make it the centerpiece of any major collection, possibly even displayed in museums as an example of minting history and human error intersecting in a remarkable way. It is important to remember that the vast majority of 1971 quarters are worth only face value, and collectors must approach extraordinary claims with healthy skepticism. But the theoretical framework that could support such a valuation is grounded in real numismatic principles. Extreme rarity, verified authenticity, dramatic visual appeal, historical significance. Next, 1993 quarter dollar coin. Today we are uncovering another jaw-dropping story from the world of pocket change, a story that proves once again that extraordinary value can sometimes hide inside the most ordinary-looking coin, and that story centers on the 1993 quarter dollar. A coin that under the right circumstances and with the right combination of mint errors and production mistakes could reach an astonishing valuation of $83 million. And before anyone dismisses that number as impossible, it is important to understand how rarity is created, how minting errors occur, and how the collector market responds when a coin checks every box of uniqueness, authenticity, condition, and historical intrigue. The 1993 D quarter was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when billions of Washington quarters were produced for circulation. Using the standard copper core-clad and nickel layers that had been in use since 1965, and because production numbers were so high, most examples are common and worth only face value, yet the sheer volume of coins struck also increases the statistical possibility that something could go dramatically wrong inside the minting presses. And when multiple dramatic errors occur together on a single coin, the result can be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. One of the most powerful catalysts for extreme value would be a wrong planchet error. Imagine a 1993 D quarter struck not on its intended clad planchet, but on a silver planchet meant for another denomination, or even more dramatically, on a foreign planchet with a different metallic composition and weight. Such a coin would immediately stand out because its weight would not match the expected 5.67 grams of a standard quarter. Its color might be slightly different, and its ring, when dropped, would produce a distinct sound. Metallurgical analysis using advanced testing could confirm the anomaly. And if documentation proved that only one such example existed, collectors would instantly recognize its significance. Now add to that the possibility of a double die obverse, where the inscriptions such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 1993 show clear separation caused by a misalignment during the die creation process. True doubled dies are highly collectible because they originate at the die level and are repeated on every coin struck from that die. But if only a handful of coins were struck before the die was retired, the rarity would be extreme, and if a wrong planchet error and a doubled die appeared together on the same 1993 D quarter, the odds would be astronomically low. Another dramatic scenario involves a broad strike error, which occurs when the retaining collar fails during striking, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter, producing a coin that appears slightly larger and thinner than standard. Broad strikes are visually impressive, and when they retain sharp design details they become highly desirable. Now imagine that same coin also being struck off-center, perhaps 40 or even 50% off-center while still retaining the full date and mint mark. Collectors place enormous emphasis on visible dates in off-center coins because the date anchors the error historically, and a dramatic off-center strike with a full 1993 D visible would already be a standout piece. Combine that with wrong metal composition and bold doubling, and you begin to see how layers of rarity can multiply value exponentially. There is also the rare and fascinating Neal error, which happens when two dies that were never intended to be paired together are accidentally installed in the press. For example, a Washington quarter obverse paired with a reverse from another denomination, or even an experimental design. Neal errors are among the rarest in United States mint history because die pairing protocols are strictly controlled. And if a 1993 D quarter were discovered with a mismatched reverse design verified as genuine mint production, it would become one of the most talked about coins in modern numismatics. Another potential value driver is a rotated die error, where the reverse is misaligned relative to the obverse, meaning when the coin is flipped vertically the reverse does not appear upright but rotated at a noticeable angle. Small rotations are relatively common, but dramatic rotations approaching 90 or 180 degrees are rare and command strong premiums. And when such a rotation is combined with other significant errors, it enhances the uniqueness of the coin. Die cracks and cuts can also contribute to extraordinary value. As dies endure the stress of striking thousands of planchets, cracks may form and pieces of the die can break away, leaving raised blobs of metal on the finished coin known as cuds. A massive retained cud that covers part of the rim and design elements can make a coin instantly recognizable and visually dramatic. If a 1993 D quarter displayed a large cut intersecting Washington's portrait, while also showing doubling and being struck on the wrong planchet, the visual impact would be unforgettable. Another intriguing possibility is a double denomination strike. Though extremely rare, This occurs when a coin previously struck as one denomination is fed back into the press and struck again with dies of another denomination, leaving traces of the original design beneath the new one. If a dime or cent were struck over by quarter dies dated 1993D, the resulting coin would show overlapping design elements and would be considered a spectacular mint mistake. Such pieces are exceedingly rare and often unique. Transitional anomalies could also play a role. While 1993 did not mark a major composition shift for quarters, the mint was constantly experimenting with die treatments, surface finishes, and production adjustments. If a coin emerged with proof-like surfaces despite being a business strike, or if evidence suggested it was struck using experimental dies, collectors would be fascinated by its backstory. Condition is another critical factor. The overwhelming majority of 1993D quarters entered circulation and show wear, so a coin that not only carries multiple dramatic errors but also survives in near-perfect mint state condition with blazing luster and minimal contact marks would be an extraordinary survivor. Grading services could assign it a top-tier grade. And condition rarity layered on top of dramatic mint errors creates the kind of coin that advanced collectors dream about. Market dynamics also play a powerful role in pushing valuations into eight-figure territory. When a coin is promoted as the only known example combining wrong planchet, doubled die, broad strike, major off-center strike, rotated reverse, and massive cud, wealthy collectors and investors may compete aggressively at auction. And competitive bidding can escalate rapidly when participants understand that another opportunity may never arise. History has shown that unique coins with compelling stories can achieve record-breaking prices, and the narrative of a modern circulation quarter transformed into a multi-million-dollar rarity captures public imagination in a way few other collectibles can. Authentication would be intense and meticulous for a coin rumored to be worth $83 million. Experts would measure weight and diameter precisely, examine edge reading for irregularities, conduct non-destructive metal analysis to confirm composition, compare die markers to known genuine dies from the Denver Mint, and rule out any possibility of post-mint alteration. Once certified and encapsulated by respected grading authorities, the coin's legitimacy would fuel global attention. Beyond the technical aspects lies the human element, the thrill of discovery, the idea that someone could find such a coin in pocket change, in a forgotten jar, or in a roll from a local bank. That possibility energizes the hobby and inspires collectors of all ages to examine their coins carefully, even if most 1993D quarters are worth only 25 cents. The knowledge that one extraordinary specimen could be worth $83 million changes the way people look at their everyday currency. It turns routine transactions into potential treasure hunts. It encourages education about minting processes, die creation, and error identification. And it builds communities of enthusiasts who share discoveries and knowledge. The story of the 1993D quarter valued at $83 million ultimately represents the perfect storm of rarity, condition, authentication, historical context, and collector demand. It reminds us that coins are not just tools of commerce but artifacts of industrial history, each one the product of immense mechanical force and precise engineering, and occasionally that process produces something unexpected and extraordinary. So the next time you receive a quarter dated 1993 with a D-mint mark, do not overlook it. Check the inscriptions for doubling, inspect the rim for cuds or unusual thickness, weigh it if possible, compare its color and luster to a standard example, flip it to check for rotation, because hidden among billions of ordinary coins could be that one spectacular anomaly waiting to be recognized. And here on the Coin Empire we celebrate that sense of curiosity and possibility. Because sometimes the smallest details can hold the biggest rewards. Keep searching, keep learning. And remember that in the world of coin collecting, even a simple 1993D quarter dollar could become the discovery of a lifetime. Last 1984D quarter dollar coin. Today we are diving into an incredible and almost unbelievable story from the world of coin collecting. A story that proves once again that even the most ordinary-looking pocket change can hide extraordinary secrets. And that story is about the 1984D quarter dollar. A coin that in normal condition is worth only 25 cents, but under the right circumstances and with the right combination of rare mint errors and production mistakes could be valued at an astonishing $80 million. And before you think that number sounds impossible, you need to understand how rarity is created inside the minting process, how tiny mechanical failures can lead to dramatic visual anomalies, and how collectors around the world respond when a coin emerges that is not just rare but potentially unique. The 1984 D Washington quarter was struck at the Denver Mint during a time of massive coin production. Billions of Clyde quarters were produced to meet circulation demand, and the composition used was the standard copper core bonded between outer layers of nickel, a format that had been in place since the mid-1960s. Most 1984 D quarters are extremely common and show up regularly in change, but high production volume also increases the possibility that somewhere in that flood of coins, a few spectacular mistakes escaped quality control. And when those mistakes stack on top of one another in a single coin, the result can be a modern rarity that shocks the numismatic world. One of the most powerful drivers of extreme value would be a wrong planchet error. Imagine a 1984 D quarter struck not on its intended clad blank but on a silver planchet meant for another denomination, or perhaps even on a foreign planchet of a completely different alloy. Such a coin would immediately stand out because its weight would differ from the expected standard, its color might appear slightly off, and its metallic ring would sound distinct when tapped. Advanced metallurgical testing such as non-destructive X-ray fluorescence could confirm the unusual composition, and if such a coin were authenticated as a genuine mint error and determined to be unique, collectors would instantly recognize its historical importance. Now add to that the possibility of a dramatic double die of verse, where the lettering in Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 1984 shows clear separation caused by a misalignment during die creation. True double dies originate at the die level and are highly collectible, because they are not the result of post-mint damage, but part of the coin's original manufacture. If a 1984 D quarter displayed bold and easily visible doubling, especially combined with a wrong metal planchet, the rarity factor would multiply significantly, and the story becomes even more compelling when we consider off-center strikes. An off-center strike occurs when the planchet is not properly seated in the collar during striking, resulting in part of the design missing and a crescent-shaped blank area visible. Collectors particularly prize off-center coins that retain a full and readable date and mint mark, because that preserves the historical context of the error. A dramatic 40 or 50% off-center 1984 D quarter with full date visible would already be highly desirable, but if that same coin were also struck on the wrong planchet and displayed bold doubling, the statistical improbability would push it into legendary territory. Another layer of rarity could come from a broad strike error, which happens when the collar fails to contain the planchet, allowing the metal to spread outward and create a coin that is wider and thinner than normal. Broad strikes often have a smooth edge instead of reading, and if a 1984 D quarter were both broad struck and off-center while maintaining sharp details, it would be visually dramatic and extremely scarce. Die cracks and cuds are another important category of mint errors that could contribute to massive value. Over time, dies develop stress fractures from repeated use, and when pieces of the die break away, they leave raised blobs of metal on the struck coin known as cuds. A massive retained cud covering part of the rim and intruding into Washington's portrait would make a coin instantly recognizable, and if such a cud appeared on a coin already featuring doubling and wrong metal composition, the uniqueness would be undeniable. Rotated die errors also add to the mystique. Normally, when you flip a United States coin, vertically the reverse appears upright, but in a rotated die error the reverse is misaligned at a noticeable angle. Small rotations are relatively common, but dramatic rotations approaching 90 or even 180 degrees are rare and highly collectible, and when combined with other major errors they enhance the coin's individuality. One of the rarest possibilities of all would be a mule error. A mule occurs when two dies that were never intended to be paired together are accidentally installed in the press, for example a Washington quarter obverse paired with a reverse from another denomination or an experimental design. Such mistakes are extraordinarily rare because die management procedures are strict, and if a 1984 D quarter were discovered with a mismatched reverse verified as authentic mint production, it would instantly become one of the most famous era coins in modern history. Another fascinating scenario involves a double denomination strike, though exceedingly rare. This occurs when a previously struck coin is fed back into the press and struck again with quarter dies, leaving remnants of the underlying design visible beneath the quarter image. Imagine a dime or a cent partially visible beneath a 1984 quarter strike. The overlapping elements would create a visually stunning piece that could very well be unique. Transitional anomalies could also play a role. Although 1984 did not mark a major composition shift for quarters, the mint was constantly refining production techniques, and experimental dies or test strikes occasionally occurred. If a 1984 quarter exhibited proof-like surfaces despite being a business strike, with mirror-like fields and frosted devices, collectors would question whether special dies were involved, and the mystery surrounding such a coin would add to its appeal. Condition rarity is equally critical. The vast majority of 1984 quarters entered circulation and accumulated wear, so a coin that not only carries multiple dramatic mint errors but also survives in near-perfect mint state condition with blazing luster and minimal contact marks would be exceptionally rare. Top-tier grading from professional services would further elevate its status, and when you combine extreme condition with multiple major mint errors and potentially unique characteristics, you create the perfect storm for an 8-figure valuation. Auction dynamics can push prices even higher when a coin is presented as the only known example of a wrong planchet, doubled die, broad struck, off-center, rotated reverse 1984 quarter with massive cuds and exceptional preservation. Wealthy collectors and investors may compete aggressively, and competitive bidding can escalate quickly when participants realize that another opportunity may never come. The psychology of rarity drives extraordinary results, especially when the coin is widely publicized and becomes the centerpiece of major coin shows and media stories. Beyond the technical details lies the thrill of discovery, the possibility that such a coin could be found in a jar of old change, in a bankroll, or in a forgotten collection passed down through generations. That possibility energizes collectors and inspires people to examine their coins carefully, even though the overwhelming majority of 1984 quarters are worth only face value. The idea that one could be worth $80 million transforms everyday transactions into treasure hunts. Authentication would be rigorous for a coin of this magnitude. Experts would measure weight and diameter with precision instruments, analyze the edge reading for irregularities, conduct non-destructive composition testing, compare die markers under magnification to known Denver Mint dies from 1984, and ensure that no post-mint alteration had occurred, once certified and encapsulated by respected grading authorities. The coin's legitimacy would spark global interest. The story of the 1984 quarter valued at $80 million ultimately represents the intersection of mechanical error, historical context, collector psychology, and market forces. It reminds us that coins are not just currency but tangible artifacts produced by complex industrial processes, and sometimes those processes produce anomalies so rare and dramatic that they capture the imagination of the entire collecting community. So the next time you come across a 1984 quarter, do not overlook it. Examine the date and mint mark carefully. Look for doubling in the lettering. Inspect the rim for unusual thickness or cuds. Flip the coin to check for rotation. Weigh it if possible to confirm standard specifications. Compare its color and luster to a normal example, because hidden among billions of ordinary coins could be a spectacular error waiting to be discovered. And here on the Coin Empire we believe that curiosity and attention to detail can turn the smallest objects into the greatest stories. Keep searching, keep learning, and remember that in the fascinating world of coin collecting, even a simple 1984 quarter dollar could become the discovery of a lifetime worth millions beyond imagination.